Hello everyone, I'm Esa Mikkola and this is my mix breakdown of a song Tina Fisher Song for Us featuring Chris Barnett and Million Bells. I mixed this song about 3 years ago and since then it has got 127,000 streams on SoundCloud and lots of likes and comments. And you can find all the links to the people who wrote the song and who are involved under the YouTube video in the description. And I will show you now exactly how I mixed and mastered this song. So let's get into it. Okay, so this song only has 3 tracks of audio. The background, which is piano and percussion, and male vocal and female vocal. And that's really all. So it's very small amount of tracks. And I think that's a big challenge to mix the song with so little tracks to make it still sound like a full song. Usually songs have anything from 10 tracks to hundreds of tracks of audio, but there's only 3, so now let's listen the song with all the mixing and mastering enabled. So this is the final song.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long to be. I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool, trying so hard each and every time to stay away from you. Without you near, I fall apart. So I have to try to tell you how I feel. I open up my heart. Would you stay a while? Maybe I'll take the chance. I wrote this song for us to dance. I've spent my time simply dreaming of you. If only I knew just what to do. So all I can do is write the song and hope one day you'll sing along.
Okay, so there is the final song. And now let's break it down. Okay, and here is the song now with all the mixing and mastering plugins disabled. So this is all the raw tracks, exactly how I got them.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long to be. See how you may think that I'm but a fool, trying so hard each and every time to stay away from you. Without you near, I fall apart. So I have to try to tell you how I feel. I open up my heart. Would you stay a while? Maybe I'll take the chance.
Okay, that's the song without any mixing or mastering enabled. And now let's start from the background track. Okay, let's start from the background. So let's listen how it sounded without any mixing. So it's a nice piano track with some percussion in it. And my idea was to give the space for the vocals in this track, and that's why I needed to cut some frequencies from this background to give vocal space, and also give vocals a little bit more space in the higher frequencies, and then give this background more of the lower range, so they have more bass, and then the vocals are a little bit more in the high register. So I added first some EQ, I added some bass and some brightness, and then I cut some of the most annoying frequencies from some of the piano notes. And let's see if I add this one, how it sounds. So now it has a little bit more bass, some more brightness. Okay, and next I added a mid-side EQ, which means that I can process separately the sides of the stereo spectrum and the middle, with mostly the vocals in the middle. So I made it so that the background track is a little bit more bright from the sides, and I made a little dip here in around 1000 Hertz where the vocals will be, so they have a little bit more space here in the middle. And let's add this one. And these differences are not always so big. They can be kind of subtle and small, but in the overall picture it makes sense. Okay, and next I added R bass to give it a little more bass, around 60 Hertz. So let's add that one. Okay, now it clearly has some more bass, so that sounds nice. Then I added a CLA to a compressor just to compress it a little bit. Let's add this one. This is really not doing almost nothing. I think it's mostly just giving a little color from this plugin itself. It doesn't seem to even be compressing much anything in this track. And then next I added another compressor to give it maybe a little like retro sound, because this is modeled from the old hardware compressor. So I tried giving it a little older sound by using that. Once again, not a big difference, but I felt like it sounded good, so I put it there. Next, some more EQ. I was cutting some of the frequencies around vocals to give vocals more space here, and then cutting some, I guess, annoying piano notes which became louder after adding some compression. So let's add this EQ. Just made it sound a little darker, a little bit warmer, but in the overall song I think it fits because the vocals are taking more of the higher spectrum of the frequencies, so together they make this nice balance. And then last I added a multiband compressor just to balance the track a little bit. If there's any loud notes, they will be compressed a little bit. So let's listen to that from this louder part. So it's compressing the whole track a little bit, mostly the higher frequencies, some of the lower, just to balance it a little bit. Okay, so that was that, and then additionally I added some vocal automation for this louder part, so that when it gets here you can see how the volume of this track will go down in volume for this louder part, few decibels, just to balance the volume of the track. And then it goes up here, and then it goes even more up in the end where it's even more silent otherwise. And then I have another automation for this multiband compression, and that's just here. I'm cutting some of the lower frequency for this percussion where I felt like it's a little bit too much. There's very low humming sound coming from one of the percussions and in certain parts, and I was cutting it a lot with this multiband compression, and I automated it only for those parts which needed it. And then I'm also sending this background a little bit to the reverb bus to give it a little reverb, but I haven't enabled this bus yet, so I will do that later and I can show you that later. And next let's look at the male vocal. So let's add the male vocal here, and I'm sending it all to this male vocal bus where I have all the processing. Only on here on this track is the first plugin is the auto-tune. So first I added some auto-tune in a graphical mode, so I fixed some small things manually, and these are really small things. I think the biggest thing to fix was this one note which was in the wrong key in the middle of the sentence. If you listen here, I tried so hard each and every time. There's one note which is clearly not in the correct key. I tried so hard each and every time. So I fixed that manually here. I tried so hard each and every time. So now it sounds correct, and really these fixes are very that I long to be. Just very small things, just to polish some of the notes a little bit more. So I have the male vocals bus here. So now first I'm just adding some very basic EQ, cutting some of the lowest frequencies which we don't need in the male vocal, around 120 Hz, and then adding some brightness to it. So very standard EQ, let's add it. Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue
When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true.
Adding some brightness. Then I have two compressors. First CLA 2A, just to compress it a little bit, some of the loudest spikes, so it's a little bit more balanced. And let's add that.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something?
And this is doing only maximum around 5 decibel compression, so that it's just making it ready for the next compressor, which is CLA 76. And this is compressing more.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue.
And let's see.
When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see.
This just brings it a little bit closer to the listener. And especially this release time, when it's set like this, it really brings the vocal forward to the listener. And after that I have multiband compression, and let's see what that's doing after I add it.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something?
So it's compressing some of the lowest frequencies of the vocal.
I think it's true and everyone can see.
Because this is low male vocal, so there might be very low frequencies in it, so it's just balancing those so they are not too loud. And then I have little de-esser for the S's, so they are not so strong.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue.
And let's add it.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue.
Yeah, so the S's are clearly better.
Well, I guess it's fair. to think.
Yeah, now the S's sound good.
Clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you?
It's pretty much in the default settings, but just the threshold is set so that it cuts the S's. If we listen what it's cutting, it's cutting those S's.
Well, I guess it's fair to think.
And last I have some R-Vox just to compress it a little bit more in the end.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue.
Just raising the volume a little bit.
When will I think
just
of
compressing it a little bit more.
Smart to say to you. But I think it's true and everyone can see.
And now let's bypass all the plugins and listen how it sounded originally.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue.
And with the plugins.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see.
Just a little brighter, more balanced and sounding good. And this is also sending it to the reverb. And now let's enable the reverb bus. So I'm using this IR Live plugin, and I'm using a precasti impulse response file, which I found from internet some years ago. It was free to download. So you can just import impulse response from file, and then I'm using a chamber, precasti chamber file here, and then I'm a little bit cutting the lowest frequencies of the reverb and adding some highs. So let's add the reverb here and see how it sounds now.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see.
Sounding very nice. And then I'm adding some EQ after the reverb, just to cut some of the frequencies from the reverb itself, so it doesn't sound too like muddy with the main vocal. So I didn't want somewhat very low frequencies into the reverb itself. So let's add that.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you?
Then last I added a little bit of stereo imager effect to widen the reverb a little bit. It's not a big difference, but here I felt I wanted to do it, so I added that. So let's listen.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see.
Okay, so that's how it sounds, with all the mixing and all the effects enabled for the main vocal.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue.
And now, once I enabled the reverb bus, let's listen the background track with the reverb added. And let's disable. It's adding just a little bit of that same reverb with the vocals. So it feels like we are in the same room, because they have now a different reverb. I mean, the same reverb. So it feels more realistic that way. Let's listen these two together now.
Well, I guess it's fair to think I have no clue. When will I think of something smart to say to you? But I think it's true and everyone can see.
Okay, sounding good. Then next, let's look at the female vocals. Okay, let's look at the female vocal. So the same thing, I'm using autotune just to fix some very small things here and there. Just if there was a note just a little bit going out of tune, I fixed them just to sound a little bit more polished.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
So nothing big, there wasn't really a lot of out of tune notes here, so just polishing it a little bit. with 2 autotunes. I think the second one is just to fix some of the things which the first one couldn't fix, and I just used it, and then I had to automate some throat length parameter here so I could make it still sound realistic with the autotune.
Me a chance.
So it doesn't sound too auto-tuned. But in general it sounds great.
I try so hard each and every time.
And let's look at the processing. So first I added some very basic EQ, like in the male vocals, just cutting some of the low frequencies and adding some brightness to it. Very standard. So let's add it.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
So it's clearly brighter. And also I'm panning the female vocal 32% right, because I have also the male vocal and that's in the center, so I decided in the beginning that I will pan the female a little bit to the right, so that way, because it's a duet, 2 vocalists, so I decided that I'll make a little separation between them, so like if they would be in the same room, might sound like this in the stereo image, that the other singer is a little bit to the right. Okay, and next I added some compression the same way like in the male vocal. First CLA 2A, just to balance it a little bit.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
And then CLA 7.6 to compress it and bring it closer to the listener.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
And then a little de-esser to cut some of the S's.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
And let's compare without it.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
S's are pretty strong, and then we cut them.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
But that sounds nice. And then I came up with this plugin called UHE Satin, and I really liked one of the presets on this vocal, so I tried it and I liked the sound. So let's see how that changes it.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart. I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
Again, the difference is very small, really subtle, but I felt like I liked the sound, so I left it there. And then I added another de-esser, cutting some of higher frequency S's. I think I felt like there was more, so I added.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall. I try so hard each and every time.
So it's cutting a little bit more S's. And last, a little bit more compression, balancing, and maybe raising the volume in the end.
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
And also I've added some automation to this track so that if I wanted some parts being more silent, like here, because we have also male vocal, so it's like supporting the male vocal, but then when it's alone, I added some volume, so then it sounds better when it's alone, a little bit louder. So I'm just adding some volume automation to this track. So you can see if we play these tracks together. Now when it's together with male vocal,
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from
it's a little bit more silent, but then
without you near I fall apart.
Then it's a bit louder when it's alone. Okay, so that was all the processing I had. And then it's going into the same reverb bus like the male vocal, which we already looked at. So if I add the reverb,
I try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
and also I've added some little automation to the reverb so that it's not always sending the same amount of this signal to the reverb. It's a little bit changing. And I think it just made it a little bit more interesting to do these small changes.
That I long to be.
And then I'm also sending this female vocal a little bit to bus 6, which here I had again this same plugin satin doing some slapback delay, just a little bit. So let's add that to the mix. And it's panned 27% to the left, so when the vocals are singing on the right, this slapback delay is a little bit panned to the left, just so that I thought it sounded nice like that.
That I long to be. Try so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
Now let's disable.
Try so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
Let's add it.
Try so hard each and every time to stay away from you, but without you near I fall apart.
I think it just fills a little bit of the space to the left when you listen to it. It just makes it a little fuller sound. And it's just that in mixing there's really no rules. You can do anything you want if you feel like it fits the sound or it needs that. So I just experimented and I found this one to sound good in this situation, so I did this. So now we have processed male vocals, female vocals and the background. So let's listen these together. First, let's check male and female vocal together.
But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long to be. I've been meaning to tell you all of this for oh so long. I might not be your Brad Pitt, but I hope you can see.
I can see
how beautiful my life is when you're here with me.
And then let's add the background.
Been meaning to tell you all of this for oh so long. Might not be your Brad Pitt, but I hope you can see.
I can see
how beautiful my life is when you're here with me. So would you please say, give me a chance? I wrote this song for us.
Okay, that's sounding great. So that was the mix part, and now let's move on into the mastering part, which I have in the master bus. Okay, so now we have mixed the song. Now we need to do the mastering for it. So that means we're gonna raise the volume up to the level where it should be and do some other processing to it just to make it louder and more balanced and sounding good. So first I added some parallel compression with this H compressor, and that's just making it a bit bigger sound. So let's listen and add this one.
But I think it's true and everyone can see.
It's not doing much.
It's in your arms that I long to be. And I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool.
Just raising the volume just a little bit. And then next I have this, but this is not really doing much anything. I think when I mixed this, I felt like adding this one changed the sound a little bit. I only have a little bit of EQ here. But I think I added this just because I liked how they sounded in the master bus. I mean, the difference isn't really big, but I added them because I liked them, so I think I added them basically for any song that time. So even if this is not doing much, it's still there just because I like to have it in the master bus if I need it. But this is just doing very minimal EQ here. So let's add this one.
But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long to be.
And then I have a brick wall limiter here just to raise the volume, I guess, a little bit. Let's see what it's doing.
But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long.
Yeah, actually this one is also not doing much anything. I think also I added this one here that time because I just wanted to have them in this bus if I need it, but in this case I guess I didn't use it. And then the main part is Isotope Ozone 6. It's doing, I think, most of the mastering work here. So let's add that one.
But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long to be. And I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool. Tried so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
Without you near, I fall apart.
Yeah, that's the main part of this mastering chain. So that's raising the volume a lot and it's doing all kinds of things. and it's nicely gluing all together. So let's look at it. I have a little bit of EQ, just adding some brightness first. Then I have some multiband compression here. Let's look at it.
But I think it's true and everyone can see. It's in your arms that I long to be.
It's not doing much in the silent part. Let's look at the louder.
If you only look me in the eyes,
If you'd only take me by the hand,
you could only see how hard I try. Maybe you would understand.
Not doing much here anyway. Then we have some imager, and here I'm everything below 120 Hz. I'm basically making mono with this one. So it's just that if there's some low frequencies which are somehow wide in the stereo spectrum, I'm just making them more narrow with this, and I feel like it's making the whole mastering sounding better. And then I'm widening just a little bit of the higher frequencies in the stereo spectrum. Then I have some dynamic EQ here just to balance some of the frequencies a little bit.
If you only look me in the eyes,
if you'd only take me by the hand,
you could only see how hard I try. Maybe you would understand.
And then the last one is the maximizer, which is just raising the volume a lot. So let's see how that works.
If you only look me in the eyes,
if you'd only take me by the hand,
you could only see how hard I try. Maybe you would understand.
So this is how much it's raising the volume.
So would you please stay and listen to my song? I've been meaning to tell you all of this for oh so long. Might not be your.
And together all those makes this big difference.
And I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool. Tried so hard each and every time.
And then I added some additional EQ mid-side just to make the sides of the stereo image a little bit brighter, and just cutting some of the frequencies from the middle. And also I'm cutting some of the lower frequencies from the sides if there would be any. So just making sure that the low frequencies are mostly in the middle, and then higher frequencies are a little bit more spread in the sides of the stereo image.
And I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool. Tried so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
And next I'm adding a little bit more compression with this. And let's see how much I added.
And I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool. Tried so hard each and every time to stay away from you.
Yeah, it's adding.
without you near, I fall apart.
It's not really compressing here a lot. Let's see in the louder part.
If you only look me in the eyes,
If you'd only take me by the hand,
here it's compressing a little bit more, but then I'm adding a little bit, couple decibels of gain here just to raise the volume a little bit more.
If you only look me in the eyes, if you'd only take me by the hand, you could only see how hard I try, maybe you would understand.
Then I'm adding some multiband compression to compress some of the high and low frequencies to make it more balanced.
If you only look me in the eyes, if you'd only take me by the hand, you could only see how hard I try, maybe you would understand. So would you please stay and listen to my song?
And then I added some more EQ, and this is just doing some final small tweaks here and there, just cutting some of the frequencies which I thought sound annoying to the ear if you listen louder, and just shaping the sound a little bit in the end, adding some bass to it.
If you only look me in the eyes, if you'd only take me by the hand, you could only see how hard I try, maybe you would understand. So would you please stay?
And then the last thing, I added this isotope ozone 6 maximizer by itself, just to do the final limiting, just 0.5 decibels, so that it's enough below 0 to have the last final volume level. And let's see how much that's doing.
But I think it's true and everyone can see it's in your arms that I long to be. And I can see how you may think that I'm but a fool, trying so hard each and every time to stay away from you. To try to tell you how I feel, I open up my heart. So would you stay a while? Maybe I'll take the chance. I wrote this song for us to dance. I've spent my time.
And then you can look at the spectrum analyzer, and you can see that it's pretty balanced. There's no big spikes here during the song from lower to higher frequencies, so that's good.
But I think it's true and everyone can see.
Let's listen to the louder part.
If you only look me in the eyes, if you'd only take me by the hand, you could only see how hard I try, maybe you would understand. So would you please stay and listen to my song? I've been meaning to tell you all of this for oh so long. Might not be your Brad Pitt, but I hope you can see. I can see how beautiful my life is when you're here with me.
And because I know that this song is a love song, so that's also something you need to think about when you're mixing that. Because it's a love song and you listen to lyrics, then you need to somehow get this emotion also into the mix. So I think I managed to do that here, and it sounds very very pleasant to listen to. So that's my mix breakdown of this song. Hope you liked it, and if you liked my video, please like and subscribe, and if you want to hire me to mix your song or master your song, then you can find my contact information under the video in the description below. So see you in the next video.